Hi, once again, welcome to Personal Selling Weekly. And today we ask this dumb questions. Are there any dumb questions in sales? And of course, there's dumb questions in sales, like anywhere else. I think the reason why we ask it this way is that I think often we hear that, there ain't any dumb questions. Just ask anything you want. And I think, of course, there's context where this really makes sense. There's context where you want people to relax and just basically do whatever, because that's better than nothing. But if you're a professional communicator, I think it's okay to have higher expectation of yourself and your colleagues. And that's why I think, again, thinking a little deeper about what questions you ask and whether they're actually supporting the outcome you want to achieve makes both sense and value. And that's why we want to bring this theme up today. And of course, now you can sit there and ask yourself, so what is actually an example of a good questions and what could be an example of a dumb questions? And I think, again, it really depends on the context you're in. Because I think the way we defined a good question is a question that actually helps the customer move in the direction that actually can support you and them in getting the outcomes that you want. And as long as you ask questions that actually, in a way, help them move in that direction, I think you're on the right track. But often we see people asking questions that's not actually supporting the customer in moving in the right direction. And some of the examples of these dumb questions are questions that either scare them or maybe even make them think about things that will, in a way, sabotage them getting what they want. And a typical example we come up with when we think about what's not really good questions is what we call present state minus questions. So questions which are designed to basically elicit fear in the customer. And again, those questions sounds like, wow, what keeps you up at night? Or what problems do you face right now in your business? Or what challenges do you see in your business right now? Well, what is it that's not really working for you? And again, on the surface level, these questions looks like good questions because they are all open questions. So are all designed to elicit information from the customer. But if you just take one step down, you will realize that all of those questions will drive the customer into a closed neurological state, into a state of fear or maybe even call it defensive state, where they have to explain why they have done something which have now led to this critical situation. And that's not where you want the customers to go, because when they're in this state, they will not be able to tell you what they truly want. They can only tell you what they think they need to fix what is broken. And that's not what leads to high quality customer meetings. And then you can say, okay, but have you actually experienced a question that have shut down a conversation? And I would say that some of the examples I have just shared could be examples of that. Because if you ask a customer, so what is it that really prevent you from getting success? Or what weakness do you see in your organization right now? Again, maybe on the surface, it doesn't look like the customer is shutting down, but deep down, in a way, they start to focus on their on threats and weaknesses, and on a deep level, it will basically take out the inner drive of the person, and it will basically not help the customer think in a way which will allow them to share where they would like to truly go next. It will more, in a way, bring them to a position where they start to sandbag and make sure that they don't make any more mistakes, and it will often lead to I will have to think about it, maybe in a few months, because right now they are afraid that if they make a new decision, that will just lead to more issues and problems. And this is not conscious, this is not rational, this is really out of this negative emotional starting point that will lead to this kind of thinking. And I think that's not what you want when you work with customers. Then you could say that, but how do the satisfaction selling methodology actually help you ask higher quality questions. Questions that are actually bringing value for you and your customers. And I think the framework we very basically work from is that we want you to first and foremost ask questions that lead the customer's attention to the successes they are already seeing in their organization within the way they're operating. Because those questions will give you both some useful information, but it will also help you basically move the customer into an excitatory, mentally open mind frame where they will be able to think much more freely, where they will be able to share with you information of much higher value. and again, it will also give you some very useful information about the solution the customer is having right now and what they like about it. And again, as a potential supplier, it's very seldom that you meet a customer that's not already having some sort of solution to what you are delivering. And you want to know what they like about their present solution, because that will basically inform you about what you have to deliver as a minimum to really have a chance to create business with this customer. So let's say that you have a wonderful instrument that can help customer in some way, and you know that they have been working with a competitor for the last 5 years. Why not start with the question, what is it that this instrument have provided to you? What value have it created? What is it about this instrument's functionality that especially works well for you? Because by doing this, the customer starts to relax. They start to actually give you some very interesting competitive information. They are also, in a way, starting to think, wow, I'm actually good at buying instruments like this. And while they are moving into this positivity and they look at you, they will start to, on an unconscious level, to associate you with things that works and things that they like. And therefore, they will be more open with you later on in the conversation. When we again look at the satisfaction selling methodology, these present state positive questions is really just where we would like you to start. But we don't want you to stay there. We want you to help the customer move into the desired state, into the future they really want to build for themselves and their organization. And you do that by asking questions about what is it that you want in 1 or 2 years from now? Why do you want that? How would you know you got it? Because by asking these questions, you will help the customer mentally create a virtual simulation of the future they most want. And by helping the customer doing that, you will create this future memory of already having what they don't have yet, so that you create this burning desire for actually doing something that can bring them there. And then we would like you to ask questions like, wow, what would it take for you to get there? Where do you need help from people like us? What can you do yourself? And when you have this information, the information about what's actually already working, where they want to go and how they want to get there, now you have the information you need to understand whether you can actually provide value to this client. Not just things that would fix things that they don't like, but actually information about how you can bring them to the future they want to see come through for them and their organization. And I think that's why we call these questions high quality questions and not dumb questions. So again here, just to wrap up, so how can you take this and how can you actually start to practice? And I think the first thing I want you to do is to set aside a few minutes before every sales call you're having, or maybe a few sales calls a week, and then ask yourself, what is it that I actually know about this client already? What is it that would be useful for me to know? And which open, positive question could I ask to get access to to that information? And think about, okay, would this question actually bring the customer into a positive state or not? And if it brings the customer into a positive state and you get some information you really want and need to move the process further, I think you're on a pretty good track to asking high quality questions. So I think that this is really where I would advise you to start. Become more conscious about not only what you're asking, but what's also the emotional impact of the question you're asking. So once again, thank you for having watched this week's episode of Personal Selling Weekly. If you want some examples of high quality questions, put in a comment below. And I would also say, if you have some examples of questions where you would like our feedback, you can also put them in the comment and ask for our feedback, and we will be happy to share that with you. So once again, have a nice week, and look forward to meeting you again next week on Personal Selling Weekly.